There's a reason why Scorpio has always been whispered about, never spoken of openly, not because people don't know what this sign is about, but because they know and they're terrified. Scorpio doesn't play in the shallow waters of personality traits. It doesn't care whether you're organized, loyal, or creative. Scorpio goes straight for what the world spends its whole life avoiding: desire, death, destiny, the forbidden forces. These are not casual topics. They are the forces that make and break empires, that seduce kings, destroy queens, birth revolutions, ignite betrayals, and bury illusions. And Scorpio is not just ruled by these forces, Scorpio rules them. This is the sign of the underworld, not because it's dark, but because it reveals what the light tries to deny. In every Scorpio lies a gatekeeper, one who doesn't ask for permission, one who doesn't seek approval, one who holds the key to transformation but demands a price for it. You must die to who you were in order to become who you truly are. This isn't a motivational speech, it's a ritual. If you've found your way here, it's not because of coincidence. It's because something inside you, maybe long buried, is rising. A voice within is stirring, whispering that your power is not in playing it safe, but in walking straight into the forbidden. So ask yourself, where in your life have you been afraid to feel desire, to face endings, to step into your destiny? Because Scorpio is not just a zodiac sign, it's a fire, one that consumes falsehood, burns through illusion, and forges the soul in ash and bone. And that's exactly where we begin. Part 1, the Forbidden Gate. Why Scorpio guards the taboo. To understand Scorpio is to walk willingly into the one room in the human psyche that everyone else avoids. The door marked "Do Not Enter." You know that door? It's the one behind which we lock away shame, lust, fear, rage, and the craving to control. Not because we're evil, but because we're terrified of what would happen if those parts of us ever saw daylight. But Scorpio doesn't avoid that door. Scorpio guards it, Scorpio opens it, and Scorpio demands that you walk through it. You see, every zodiac sign rules a domain of human life. Libra governs balance. Leo rules identity and ego. Virgo tends to service and perfection. But Scorpio governs the taboo, the sacred and the profane, the primal and the transcendent. It holds court over everything we're told not to talk about: power, sex, death, rebirth, control, desire, betrayal, transformation. The signs before Scorpio show us how to build a self. Scorpio shows us what happens when that self is shattered, and whether we rise from the pieces or become one of them. That's why ancient mystery schools considered Scorpio a rite of passage. It was the zodiac's crucible, the point in the soul's journey where comfort ends and confrontation begins. It doesn't matter if you're a Scorpio sun, moon, rising, or none of the above. Everyone passes through Scorpio's domain sooner or later. A divorce, a betrayal, a spiritual awakening that starts with collapse, a desire so intense it both terrifies and awakens you, a death real or symbolic that strips away everything you thought defined you. That's when Scorpio steps in, not as your enemy, but as your initiator. Scorpio asks one question and one question only: what must die so that something greater can live? And it will not let you go until you answer. That is the first reason Scorpio's power is forbidden, because most people are not ready to die to their old identity. They are not ready to surrender control. They are not ready to step into the fire, much less be reborn in it. But if you are even just a little curious about the truth hiding behind your fears, then keep going. Because in the next chapter, we'll meet the three guardians of Scorpio's gate: the scorpion, the eagle, and the phoenix. And each one will test you in ways you cannot yet imagine. Life lesson: the power of what you don't want to face. The parts of your life you avoid the most are the ones holding your greatest transformation. What you repress doesn't die, it waits. And Scorpio teaches that to step into your destiny, you must first unlock the door you fear the most. Don't run from the fire. Become the one who walks through it and claims what's on the other side. Part 2. Scorpion, Eagle. Phoenix, your shadow initiation. Scorpio is the only sign in the zodiac that doesn't stay still. It evolves. It transforms. It burns away its own identity again and again in search of truth. Most people only know one symbol of Scorpio, the scorpion, but those who have walked the full path know the truth. There are 3 faces of Scorpio, 3 stages of power, 3 initiations into your own soul, and each one will ask you to sacrifice something. The first is the scorpion, crawling close to the ground, venomous, silent, triggered. It represents the part of you that has been hurt and learned to survive by any means necessary. It strikes first, not because it's cruel, but because it refuses to be weak again. Here, Scorpio is reactive, emotional, secretive, and always scanning for betrayal. This is where many people get stuck in survival. And when you're stuck in survival, love looks like control, desire looks like possession, and trust, that's a luxury you stopped affording long ago. But Scorpio was never meant to live in the dirt. It was meant to rise. The second stage is the eagle. It soars above the battlefield. It sees the truth, the patterns, the motives, not from emotion, but from wisdom. This is where Scorpio becomes the strategist, the one who knows when to move and when to wait, the one who sees what others try to hide but doesn't need to react because power here is internal. The eagle doesn't need to fight to win, it just needs to understand. And understanding is what begins to set Scorpio free. But the final transformation is not survival, it's not even strategy, it's surrender. The phoenix, the mythical bird that builds its own pyre, lays in it willingly and burns, not to die, but to be reborn. Here, Scorpio transcends fear. It embraces pain. It sacrifices the illusion of control to gain true liberation. The phoenix stage is where nothing can destroy you because you've already let it go, and what remains is not weakness. It is the truest version of yourself. The self that cannot be owned, broken, or manipulated. But to reach the phoenix, you must be willing to lose who you were, to step into the fire not as punishment, but as purification. Most never make it that far. But if you do, you become unstoppable. You are no longer just surviving. You are sacred. Life doesn't happen to you anymore. It happens through you, and the world can feel it. Because nothing radiates more power than someone who has burned and risen, not bitter, not vengeful, but awakened. Life lesson. You are not meant to stay in survival mode. The scorpion is necessary when you're wounded. The eagle is powerful when you're awakening. But the phoenix is your destiny. Your past was never meant to define you. It was meant to burn so that your soul could rise beyond it. Don't cling to the sting. Don't stop at strategy. Dare to surrender and rise. Part 3. Desire isn't evil, it's power misunderstood. Desire. Even the word makes some people uncomfortable. It's been called temptation, sin, weakness, shame. But what if everything you've been taught to fear about desire is actually the doorway to your greatest power? Scorpio has always known this, and that's why Scorpio has always been feared. Because Scorpio rules the force behind every great creation and every great collapse. The hunger that moves empires, the fire that destroys marriages, the spark that awakens artists, addicts, mystics, and revolutionaries. Desire is not dirty, it's divine. Ancient mystery schools understood this truth far better than modern society. In Egypt, the sacred rites of Isis and Osiris linked sexual union with resurrection. In Hindu Tantra, sexual energy wasn't sin, it was Shakti, the unstoppable force of the universe. In Greece, the cult of Dionysus believed that ecstasy, real ecstasy, dissolves the ego and reveals the divine. And what does Scorpio do? It doesn't just crave this ecstasy, it masters it, or it's destroyed by it. Because here lies the paradox: desire, when repressed, becomes poison, but when understood, it becomes power. When you don't face your desires, they don't disappear. They go underground. They turn into jealousy, obsession, manipulation, addiction. This is Scorpio at its lowest vibration, controlling others because you can't control the storm within. But when you do the work, when you turn toward your desire with eyes wide open, you begin to transmute it. Like an alchemist turning lead into gold, Scorpio learns to turn lust into life force, obsession into sacred focus, control into spiritual magnetism, sexual energy into soul fire. This is why Scorpio rules the 8th house, the house of sex, death, rebirth, and shared energy. Not because Scorpio is obsessed with flesh, but because Scorpio knows the body is a temple. The soul is awakened through it or imprisoned by it. Desire then becomes a map. Where you crave most is where your soul is calling for integration. Is it love? Control, recognition, surrender. Scorpio doesn't ask you to run from it. Scorpio asks you to walk through it, to feel the craving fully without shame, and then ask yourself what it really means. Because underneath every desire is something deeper. The craving for intimacy is a craving to be seen. The craving for control is a craving to feel safe. The craving for sex is often a craving for union with something greater than yourself. Desire is the language of the soul. You just have to learn how to read it. Life lesson: your desires aren't your enemy. Your ignorance of them is. You are not weak because you want deeply. You are weak only when you let those desires run your life in the dark. Face your fire. Learn what it's really asking for, and you will find hidden beneath lust or control a key that opens your purpose, your power, and your path. Part 4. Why death is never the end for a Scorpio soul. Most people think death is the end. Scorpio knows better. Scorpio doesn't just rule death. It dances with it. It studies it. It understands it as a ritual, not a punishment. Death to Scorpio is not the final breath. It's the exact moment when everything you thought you were shatters. The moment you lose what you thought you couldn't live without. The identity, the relationship, the dream, the control. That's when real transformation begins, and it never comes dressed in peace or comfort. In ancient Egypt, the journey through the underworld wasn't about fear. It was a test. The soul of the dead was weighed not by success or by wealth, but by truth. In Greek mythology, Persephone doesn't just get dragged into the underworld, she becomes queen of it. Because once you've survived darkness, it no longer owns you. And in Scorpio's realm, that's the real lesson. What you survive, you master. Scorpio teaches that death isn't just physical, it's emotional, psychological, spiritual. Every time you end a chapter, you die. Every time you let go of a version of yourself that no longer serves you, you die. Every time you face something that would have broken the old you but doesn't, you're reborn. That's why Scorpio is the sign of shamans, mystics, and alchemists, because they don't fear endings, they welcome them. They understand that every death leaves behind something sacred: wisdom, depth, power. The world fears this process. We distract ourselves from pain. We numb our grief. We fight to keep things alive long after their time has passed. But Scorpio asks a different question. What if letting go is the most spiritual thing you can do? Because in that letting go, you're not losing yourself. You're finding your soul. Scorpio doesn't want you to pretend you're fine. It wants you to feel the grief, the fear, the heartbreak, to descend into it, and then rise, not as who you were, but as who you were meant to become. Life lesson: what ends isn't the end, it's a passage. Stop trying to hold on to what's already dying. That job, that relationship, that version of yourself, The more you cling, the more you suffer. But if you can surrender, if you can let what must die, die, you'll discover that nothing truly dies. It only transforms, just like you. Part 5, The Dark Art of Secrecy, How Scorpio Rules the Hidden World. There's something about Scorpio that makes people uneasy even when they don't know why. They can't put their finger on it, but they feel it. It's not loud, it's not flashy, it's not trying to impress anyone, and that's exactly why it unnerves them. Because Scorpio doesn't need the spotlight to have power, it rules from the shadows. While Gemini talks, Leo performs, and Aries charges forward, Scorpio listens, watches, waits. It doesn't seek attention, it seeks truth, and only those who can handle it. In astrology, Scorpio is the natural ruler of the occult mystery and the unseen. It governs everything that lies beneath the surface: secrets, trauma, hidden motives, buried truths both personal and collective. This is why ancient mystery schools only revealed their deepest wisdom after a long, painful initiation. Truth in Scorpio's world is earned, not handed out. In Egypt, initiates in the cult of Osiris were led through rituals of symbolic death before they were shown sacred teachings. In Greece, the Eleusinian mysteries were so secret that to reveal them meant death. Why? Because Scorpio knows that truth in the wrong hands becomes a weapon, and truth without readiness becomes madness. This is the Scorpio paradox. Secrecy can protect the sacred, or it can be used to manipulate, to control, to dominate. In its shadow form, Scorpio energy has fueled the rise of secret societies, psychological manipulation, and power built on fear. But in its higher form, secrecy becomes sanctuary, a sacred container where the soul can transform without judgment, where the vulnerable becomes strong, where what is hidden isn't denied but healed. Psychologically, Scorpio governs the unconscious. It's the part of you that stores every memory you forgot, every wound you denied, every desire you suppressed. And if you don't confront it, it runs you. Silently, invisibly, powerfully. That's why Scorpio is the sign of shadow work. The inner excavation where you face what you've buried, not to destroy yourself, but to take your power back. Because here's the truth: what you hide controls you. What you face transforms you. And Scorpio has no interest in leaving you the same. It will drag your secrets to the surface. It will shine light on your hidden motives. It will show you exactly where you are lying, especially to yourself. Not out of cruelty, but because only what is seen can be healed. Life lesson: your secrets don't protect you. They imprison you. You don't need to expose yourself to the world, but you do need to stop hiding from yourself. Power doesn't come from what others know about you. It comes from what you have the courage to know about yourself and still love anyway. Don't fear your shadow, because inside it is the part of you that's been waiting to be reclaimed. Part 6, The Relationship Trial, Love that Burns and Rebuilds. To love a Scorpio is to enter the fire. Not a candlelight romance, not a cute story for your Instagram feed, but a sacred storm. Because Scorpio doesn't do surface-level connection, it doesn't flirt for fun, it doesn't give a piece of itself just to pass the time. When Scorpio loves, it merges fully, fiercely, fearlessly. And that kind of love, it either awakens you, or it destroys everything you thought love was. Scorpio rules the 8th house, the house of intimacy, secrets, trust, betrayal, and transformation. This isn't dating. This is soul-deep surrender. But here's the truth. Scorpio's love will test you. It will strip you of your masks. It will press on your wounds. It will ask questions you didn't even know your heart was afraid to answer. Why? Because Scorpio doesn't want the version of you that performs. It wants the version of you that bleeds. The you that hides. The you that's been betrayed. The you that's terrified of being abandoned again and still dares to love anyway. That's the only kind of union Scorpio respects. Not comfort, but transformation. But this depth comes at a cost. When Scorpio is wounded or afraid, it can become possessive, jealous, and emotionally controlling. It fears betrayal sometimes even before it happens, and in that fear, it can destroy what it most wants to protect. This is the Scorpion stage of love. Love as defense, love as territory, love as war. But when Scorpio evolves, when it becomes the eagle, love becomes something else entirely. Now it sees, it understands patterns. It offers loyalty not out of fear, but from fierce inner strength. The eagle doesn't need to control you to love you. It just needs you to be real. And at the phoenix level, now love becomes a sacred alchemy. It burns through lies. It devours false intimacy. And in its place, it births a love that is indestructible. The kind of love that has faced betrayal and rebuilt. The kind that has walked through grief and come back wiser. The kind that no longer needs possession because it's already anchored in the soul. Scorpio love, when fully awakened, doesn't want to own you. It wants to merge with the part of you that is eternal. But be warned, this kind of love will not let you stay asleep. It will force you to feel, to confront, to grow, or fall apart trying. And yet, many will tell you it was worth every scar, because once you've been loved that deeply, you never forget it. Life lesson, real love isn't comfort, it's transformation. You weren't made for shallow connection, you were made for soul bonds. But to experience that, you have to be willing to be seen, not as you want to be, but as you are. Scorpio teaches that love is not about finding someone who fills your emptiness. It's about walking into the fire with someone who won't let you burn alone and who dares to rise with you from the ashes. Part 7, your Phoenix moment. Are you ready to rise? By now, you've walked through every gate Scorpio guards: desire, death, power, secrets, and the kind of love that leaves nothing untouched. But none of this was meant to break you. It was meant to awaken you. Scorpio doesn't come to your life gently. It doesn't knock at the door and wait. It breaks in like a storm and burns down the version of you that was built to survive, so that the version of you meant to live could finally emerge. This is what ancient mystics called dying before you die. It's the ego death, the shattering of illusions, the surrender of everything you thought you had to be, so that your soul could remember what it actually is. This is what Scorpio demands, not perfection, not politeness, but truth, unfiltered, unapologetic, unbreakable. You see, Scorpio doesn't offer you comfort, it offers you freedom, but only if you're willing to walk through the fire. The phoenix doesn't rise by accident. It rises because everything else has been burned away, and all that's left is what cannot die. That's you. That's your soul. That's the part of you Scorpio has been calling forward this entire time. So let me ask you directly now, what are you still clinging to that's already dead? What must you bury finally so that your true self can rise? What truth have you been afraid to say out loud, even in the silence of your own mind? Because this is your Phoenix moment, and no one can choose it for you. You can go back to safety, to fear, to pretending, or you can step forward into the unknown, into the flames, into freedom. Scorpio never promised this path would be easy, but it did promise something else, that if you walk it fully, you will never again be controlled by fear. You will never again confuse survival with living, and you will never again forget who you are. Because the truth is simple. The fire was never your enemy, it was your mirror. And now, it's time to rise. Life lesson, the real you is born after the fire. You are not the version of yourself that begged to be loved. You are not the one who played small to feel safe. You are not the one who stayed silent to avoid the truth. You are the soul that came to transform. You are the phoenix, and your time is now. Final words and an invitation. If this journey stirred something inside you, if you felt seen, cracked open, or even just strangely understood, that wasn't an accident. Scorpio doesn't show up when life is calm. It appears when your soul is ready for more truth, more courage, more transformation. So now I invite you to do something bold. Leave a comment below, not just for me, but for the version of you that's ready to rise. What are you letting go of? What part of yourself are you finally claiming? Where in your life are you walking through the fire? Share it, witness it, let it breathe. And if this message found you at the right time, subscribe to the Path to Buddha Wisdom. This is not just a channel, it's a threshold, and you didn't cross it by accident. Here we don't fear endings, we honor them, because every ending in your life is sacred, and from it, something eternal is always being born. Until next time, burn with purpose, rise with power, and never forget, the phoenix within you is waiting.